G'day legends, Blake here with another video, and Harry's joining me today as well. He's a bit under the weather, so we're going to try and push on with this video. But more importantly, today we're going to talk about the 8 reasons why your bedders keep dying. It can be really upsetting and confusing, so I want to run through what you could be doing to make sure that you're getting more longevity out of your favourite pet fish. Let's jump straight into it. So the first one I want to talk about is probably the most common and the one that you see the most with new starters into the hobby, and that is tank size. Now this tank behind me has a bunch of fish in it, but it is much bigger than the better bowl or tiny little cups that are often sold with these awesome fish. Whilst there's a bit of a myth that's generated that bedders live in puddles in the wild and sort of just splash around hopping puddle to puddle, so they're going to be fine in a little plastic container, I don't find it to be the truth. I've got mine here in a 4-foot aquarium, which is pretty excessive for a bedder, but anything around the 45 centimeter to 60 centimeter, which is about 18 inch to 24 inch wide aquarium, you want about 40 litres to 60 litres, I think, to keep a bedder nice and comfy. Keeping them in a larger aquarium is going to give them more room to move, they're going to grow bigger as a result, and also it's going to mean that you have to do less maintenance because they're not going to generate as much waste in terms of a percentage of what the water in the aquarium can actually handle. The second biggest mistake I find is people not providing heaters for their bedders. Now bedders can tolerate cold temperature for quite a while, probably more so than most fish, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be comfortable. And if you want to provide appropriate care for your beloved pets, then why wouldn't you provide it? They're pretty cost effective these days. You can get some pretty small ones that are easily hidden in the back of your aquarium, so heating the water to about 25 degrees Celsius or 77 degrees Fahrenheit is going to provide the best comfort level for your fish and ensure that you have the longest possible relationship with them. Now, they might be with you for a short time, but you're with them for their entire life, so why not make it the happiest that we can? The third thing I want to talk about is overfeeding, and I think humans these days, we're pretty accustomed to having 3 or 4 square meals a day, overdoing most of those, and I think it translates into our fish at times and other pets. Now, bedders in the wild, they're going to be scavenging every couple of days. They might find a tiny meal of some Daphnia or whatnot, and these days pellets and flakes are pretty nutrient dense, so when we're loading in handfuls and handfuls into the tank and the fish are eating 5, 6, 7 pellets, it's really just too much. The good thing about bedders is that it's pretty obvious when they are overindulging because their bellies get quite large and you can see them really quite engorged. So lessening down the food to 3 or 4 pellets maximum per bedder every couple of days is really going to be enough to get them to live a nice and healthy, balanced life. Now, if you're alarmed or confused how I have multiple bedders in this tank and have them all getting along, I'll touch on that at the end of this video, and it's really the only way that I would recommend doing something like this. But the fourth one is going to be how to do general maintenance, and I get it because it's pretty confusing, especially at the start. So you want to change out water on a semi-regular basis, say 20% per week if you've got a decent sized aquarium, or 40% per week if you've got a smaller sized aquarium, using dechlorinated to get rid of that chlorine. Now the reason being is because we want that bacteria to stay in our aquarium because it's the life support for our fish. Now, bacteria can grow on anything, so if you've got a cartridge system type filter, throw out that cartridge and swap it out for just a piece of sponge. It's going to be far cheaper and you can easily clean it out. If you've got a sponge filter, that's good. And the other one you want to do is get a decent amount of substrate in there, whether that's kind of a 2.5 centimeter or inch layer of gravel, aquasoil, sand, whatever it is, that's good. It's going to provide areas that we can grow bacteria in case we accidentally kill it in our filter. Squeeze out your filter, sponge or whatever, just when it either slows down or just every couple of months as it's going to clog up a little bit more and become less efficient. Next one's going to be identifying and treating various diseases. Now bedders often are kept on their own in terms of at the store and whatnot, so they're not really going to be susceptible to too many parasites until you put them in with other fish, of course. The most thing I see is things like fin rot, which is going to be a bacterial issue. So you'll see that if their fins are starting to get a bit shredded or sort of fading away towards their body, and learning what those look like before they happen is a good idea. So on to tank mates, what can go peacefully with a bedder and not cause too many headaches. I wouldn't recommend barbs, I wouldn't recommend really any cichlids or anything like that. Endlers I think can work really well. I like platies as an option, Platies are a great one. They're super peaceful, come in a bunch of different colors. They're gonna be around about a similar size to the betta, but maybe you could have the betta as more of your main showpiece of the tank and then the platy sort of accentuating around. I think that can work perfectly fine. But I did say earlier in the video that I would let you know how I've pulled off having multiple bettas in this aquarium and the only way that I believe it can work. And that's because all these bettas here are from a single spawn. They're all brothers or sisters, even though they don't really look like it. It's a really interesting process breeding bettas, and I would recommend doing it if you have the chance to. But the spawns that you get are really quite diverse, depending on your parents, of course, and their genetics. But yeah, these ones, even though they look really different, they're all brothers and sisters from the one spawn. Occasionally you do get the aggressive male, which I just moved to another aquarium, but for the most part I find that if they have enough space, enough plants and hiding spots, then it can be achieved keeping a spawn together. Much like clownfish in the saltwater hobby, you can keep sort of a harem together. I think it's pretty similar with bettas. People do talk about a betta sorority and things like that. Now, I don't really recommend it. Even I've had a tank this large with just 2 male bettas that weren't related in there, and it didn't really work. They kind of fought every time they came across each other. Being a larger tank, they didn't come across each other that much, but I wouldn't recommend that. And I find that betta sororities, they work for a while, but eventually one of the dominoes falls and then the chaos just sort of breaks out. And then the other thing that you can do to best ensure that you're going to have a nice, long-living, healthy betta is to source them from the appropriate places. If you're going into a big box fish store and you find a sad-looking betta in a cup, just be mindful that they've been fighting for survival in that store for who knows how long. However, if you're lucky enough to source a local breeder nearby to you, whether that is through a good local fish store or through a club or other affiliation, then those fish are going to be accustomed to your water. They're not going to have to really go through too much hassle to get to your aquarium. And overall, it's just going to be a much easier transition from wherever they come from into your aquarium. And most likely, the breeder's going to be a bit more stringent than these real mass quantity breeders that are going to be out there in terms of looking for traits to cull out or to avoid. So there you go, guys. Those are my best tips for keeping long-lived, healthy, happy bettas. Hopefully they've been helpful for you. But the other one that I definitely always recommend, regardless of what it is you're trying to keep, is make sure that you're keeping them in ecosystems, not fish tanks. So if you want to learn more about that, click this video right here and you can definitely do that. If you made it this far into the video, it always helps me out to smash like, hit subscribe and all that fun stuff. And other than that, I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.